Hey, and in this video, we're going to cover bulk scheduling for irregular services. And let's start right there. What do we mean by irregular services? Well, not weekly services, not stuff that you go and do every week or every other week. That's covered in another video called bulk scheduling for weekly services. What we mean by irregular services are scheduling work that doesn't really have easily defined times. Fertilization applications are a pretty good one. At the beginning of the year, when I go to lay out my schedule, I don't know exactly what day we're going to fertilize all the way in fall for our fertilization. I know roughly when we have to. It's between this date and this date, but I don't know exactly when we're going to fertilize. It's not a predictable schedule like weekly mowing when I know I got to go every Tuesday between April and October or whatever your months are. So this video is going to walk us through how to schedule stuff like fertilization, cleanups, irrigation, stuff that we know we have to do, but we might not know the exact date we're going to do it on yet. Kind of get close to there, wait to see what the weather's like, and then we start scheduling it once it creeps up on us. So let's see how it's done. Okay, first of all, before we get started, we're going to go to the schedule menu, and we need to make sure there's a couple things set up before you get into bulk scheduling. One of them is setting up visit types. So here's my visit types menu. So a scheduled visit type is like a scheduled event for a particular type of visit or service. And because we're going to do a fertilization sample here, I need to make sure that I've got my fertilization visit type set up. And here you can see I've got a visit type for fert early spring, fert fall, fert spring, and fert summer. Obviously, you'd have as many or as few as you need for your particular fertilization services. So I've got my 4 visit types that I'm going to use for my sample. Again, you may have more or less. Next, I need to have a work calendar. And a work calendar is like a template for a schedule. Probably makes more sense if we take a look at one. So here, if I go to my FERT work calendar, and now I go over here to visit schedules, you can see I've got a basic package and a deluxe package. If I open my basic package, it's a wait list schedule type. It could be a weekly, it could be a manual. I've decided to make it a wait list schedule type because it's really good for fertilization to do it that way. And in this case, my basic package has 3 visits. Sometime between April 1st and April 28th, we do our spring fertilization. This is why you needed the visit type set up first, because we're going to use them here in this visit schedule. Now, sometime between June 3rd and June 30th, we go do a summer, and between October 7th and October 27th, we do a fall. Obviously, these dates and services would be what you'd set up. And I've also got these warning dates over here, so if it's not done by a certain date, I'm going to get a warning. So this in itself is like a schedule template. I'm going to apply jobs that have our basic package to this template, and it's going to schedule, or in this case, at least wait list jobs between these dates. Now, if you have other customers who have bigger or more expensive packages, I might have also a fertilizer deluxe package. You can see here that people who sign up for a deluxe package get the extra visit. So they have 4 visits. It's just a different date range. So I've got 2 sort of schedule templates, what we call visit schedules, and we're ready now to do our bulk scheduling. So I'm going to go to bulk scheduling. First thing I'm going to want to do is find all the jobs that need fertilization. So I can start by filtering either all my jobs, or I can filter to a specific group. So it's up to you which one you want to do. If you've already created groups for your fertilization customers, amazing. You got half the work done. If not, you can just leave it at all jobs. Because here I'm going to select find all jobs that have a specific service. So what I want to do here is find a job that have a fertilization service. It's important here, though, to pick a service that all those fertilization jobs are going to have. So, for example, if you have a basic and a deluxe, don't pick the one service that's on the deluxe package that's not on the basic. Because if I do that, I'm only going to return customers who have the deluxe package. I want to try to pick a service that all the customers have. So in this case, I'm going to pick FERT Spring Done. Now, if I also want to compare if it's already been on the schedule, so that I don't double schedule stuff, I'm going to use this here, schedule visit type. So I'm also going to look and cross-reference all these jobs with my FERT Spring schedule. So I'm going to look for jobs that have a job service called FERT Spring Done, and I'm going to compare it to my schedule called FERT Spring to make sure I'm not going to double schedule any jobs, or it's going to show me if I have scheduled them already. Now, it's also going to look for visits after this date. Now, that date will default to today, because why would you want to schedule stuff that's already in the past? But just if I was doing it at the beginning of the year, if you wanted to, you could back it up. There's really no need to ever back it up like I just did, because there's no real need to schedule stuff that's already happened, right? If it's in the past, it's in the past. We just want to schedule going forward. This last option here says hide scheduled. So if you want to hide the jobs that are already on the schedule, you pick yes. If you want to show the jobs that are already on the schedule, you can click no. Now, I don't have any jobs that are already on the schedule, but if I did, you can see in the legend down here, they'd show up in yellow as already scheduled. But in this case, all my jobs show up in here as white push pins because they're all unscheduled to date. So these are all the jobs that I have on this map that have Fert Spring done as one of their services. So now I want to select the ones I want to schedule. And you have two options here. You can schedule certain regions at once, or you can just schedule all your jobs. It's up to you, whatever you're doing. When you're doing weekly services, you're generally scheduling it for a particular day for a particular crew. Something like fertilization, though, I might be scheduling all my jobs. Just to keep our example quick, I'm just going to schedule this group right here. So I do that by clicking this button up here. It's a polygon selector. And then I just draw an area around the jobs I want to select. Then to select those jobs, I go down here to this button and say select contain jobs. That shows this over on the right-hand side. That's all my selected jobs. Now, if you want to manually select jobs, you just click the push pin. So here you can see I can select and unselect this job, or I could go over here and select or unselect these jobs. It's up to you, whatever you want to select. But it's easier if you're going to do a bunch to just draw a polygon around it. Once you're happy with your list, you click this button here, which says schedule selected jobs. First thing we want to do is we need to schedule the tasks, or we need to get the tasks for these hours to figure out, or these jobs, to figure out what the estimated hours are. So I'm going to go up to task name contains. You could go here to task and pick each one of these manually. So you could go through each job's task and pick the fertilization task. It's a heck of a lot faster to go up here and say task contains. I'm going to type FERT, and what it's going to automatically do is go through all my jobs. If there's a task with FERT in the name, it's going to default it to that task. Great, I've already got my list. If there's a job on here that you accidentally selected, you don't have to go back to the map. You can just slide over here and delete it. It won't delete the job, of course. It'll just delete it from the scheduling. Once you've got your list selected, next you want to pick a visit schedule. So now again, because we have like a basic and deluxe package, some of our jobs might be basic, some might be deluxe. That's okay. What we want to do is pick the one that has the most. So you can see here, I've got fertilizing 4, 4, 4, 4, 3, 4, 4, 3, 4. Most of mine have 4. So I'm going to pick my deluxe package because that's the one that has 4 visits. What this column here does is show the number of visits that I'm going to schedule. And if it's in red, what it's doing is telling me that the number of visits that your task says, so in this case here for this job, my task is 3 visits, but I'm trying to schedule it for 4 visits. So that's letting you know it's in red because that's going to be a problem. I definitely don't want to do this. If the customer is only paying for 3 visits, I do not want to schedule them for 4. So that's why I picked the one that I have the most of, but now I might need to do some manual stuff. So for here, I could set this to basic, this to basic, this to basic, and this to basic. Now I can still see here, this one and this one are actually jobs that only get 1 application of fertilization. Let's just get them right off this schedule so we don't muck it up. We could schedule those independently later. They're obviously a special case. Now all these, none of these are red anymore. Everything's scheduled for the same number of visits in my task. I'm well on the right track. You'll notice here at the top, I also have a manager. I have a starting date. So again, it's only going to schedule dates starting on today moving forward. It's got a crew that I could assign. And again, you could do this now or you could do this later. For now, it's going to add these things schedule. You can always use your whiteboard to drag stuff later. For now, I'm just going to leave this as unassigned, but I could assign a crew if I wanted to. And then the last thing is weekday. But weekday is only applicable for weekly schedules. In this case, none of these visit schedules are weekly. Remember, it was a range, so July 1st to July 30th. The weekday won't apply to this. That's why this says NA. If I had done a weekly schedule for something like mowing, it would tell me the weekday here. Next up, I see man hours. And this is important because on the schedule, it's going to schedule a duration. So if your tasks are good and they have good estimated hours and your number of visits are correct, you should already have perfect man hours. The only case where this will be weird or wrong is if you have a job where you say consolidated all your tasks into 1 total man hours. So if you had total man hours for mowing and fert and cleanups and it was all lumped together, you don't want to use the default duration. It's going to be wrong because your man hours for this task are going to be huge, but your fertilization hours are going to be small. So you have the opportunity here, if they are wrong, to just override them. So this is going to set up how much time on the schedule we want to book. Or if you have to override all of them, because you always do that, you can go down to the bottom here where it says set default man hours. So for example, if I wanted all my fertilization jobs to default to half an hour, I could just go here, set that to half an hour, and bam, everything's half an hour. And then I can just change the ones that are bigger or smaller as needed. Notice that my duration is slightly longer than half an hour. And why is that? Because on our work calendar for fertilization, we had added, in this case, 12 minutes as unproductive time to each job. And that's used to schedule things like driving from site to site, loading and unloading the truck at the job. That's up to your work calendar. You don't have to use that feature, but that's what it is there for. It's to make sure that we're not just scheduling on-site time, that our schedule also factors driving time and unload and load time. And that's something you set up on your work calendar. So anyway, great. We're good. We're here. I've got all my things set up. Now all I need to do is go down here and say schedule waitlist jobs. So I'm going to click that. It's going to remind me that make sure that each job has the correct visit schedule. We did that. We made sure the visits matched and none were in red. The crew has been set correctly or is unassigned. We left ours as unassigned, so that's all right. And make sure the man hours have been set or defaulted correctly. We did that. We went through and defaulted everything. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to type confirm and I'm going to click continue. It's going to create the schedule and bam, almost instantly create lots of visits for lots of jobs all at once. Now, if I want to see what's been done, I can open one of the jobs that I scheduled. I can go to schedule or I can go to waitlist. In this case, it was a fertilization waitlist. And there you can see my 2 fertilization visits. Now you might ask, why didn't it schedule the spring fertilization? Because that was already in the past. Today's May 30th or whatever was on my date. My spring ones were scheduled for April. That's why they didn't get scheduled here. But everything in advance of May has now been on my schedule. It's now ready for the wait list. And it did that for all those jobs. We're done. And as it comes to June, we're ready to promote those jobs from our wait list to our actual schedule for a specific crew and specific day. That's how to make scheduling irregular work super fast and super easy. Got any questions? Hit us up on live chat or email us at advice@golmn.com. Or check out our help documents at golmn.com/help. You can search for all kinds of help articles or handy videos like this.